It was an ordinary evening, or at least it seemed so. The living room was quiet, the faint hum of the television filling the air as I leaned against the cushions of our worn-out sofa. The flickering light from the screen danced across the walls, wrapping the room in a strange, familiar glow. I thought it would be just another night, me, the television, and silence, but life has a way of disguising storms behind the stillest skies. My husband, Daniel, had been in the study for hours. Papers, deadlines, and phone calls always surrounded him, and though I tried to be understanding, a part of me longed for the simpler days when he would sit beside me, his presence filling the space more than any show on the television ever could. We had been married for 7 years, and like any marriage, ours had gone through its share of struggles, unspoken words, and moments of distance. I sighed and reached for the blanket draped over the arm of the sofa. Just as I was about to pull it across my legs, I felt a touch, a gentle brush against my shoulder. I hadn't even heard Daniel come in. "Lost in your thoughts?" he asked softly, his voice a mixture of warmth and weariness. I turned and smiled faintly. "Just the usual. How was work?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he sat beside me, closer than he had in weeks. His arm stretched across the back of the sofa, his hand resting lightly against me, not heavy, not forceful, just present. It was a small thing, but it pulled me back into something I hadn't expected, something that felt both comforting and unnerving. For a moment, the television blurred into background noise. His eyes met mine, searching, as if trying to find something we had both lost along the way. "Do you ever wonder," he began, his words slow and deliberate, "when we stopped being us?" The question caught me off guard. I shifted uncomfortably, my hands twisting the blanket. "What do you mean?" He exhaled, his touch still on my shoulder, steady yet uncertain. "We used to laugh at the smallest things. We used to talk about our dreams, late into the night. But lately, it feels like we're just living side by side, not together." His honesty pierced through me. I wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong, but deep down I knew he wasn't. I had felt it too, the widening gap, the silence that lingered longer than it should, the way routine had replaced passion. My chest tightened. "I felt it too," I admitted, "but I thought it was just me. I didn't want to burden you." For a while, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the low murmur of the television, playing a story neither of us cared about. And then, almost instinctively, Daniel's hand slipped from my shoulder to my arm, a simple gesture, but it carried the weight of unspoken words. Something in me stirred, a mixture of longing and fear. I had grown, so used to the distance that I didn't know how to bridge it anymore. Yet here he was, reaching across the invisible wall we had built. "Emily!" he whispered my name. "I don't want to lose us." The way he said it made my heart ache. And in that moment, I realized how close we had come to becoming strangers under the same roof. I wanted to lean into him, to let his touch remind me of the man I had fallen in love with, but hesitation tugged at me. It wasn't just about us. It was about trust, about choices, about the fragile line between loyalty and betrayal. Because, deep down, I knew something he didn't. For months, I had been confiding in someone else. Not in the physical sense, never that, but in ways that mattered just as much. A colleague at work, Michael, had become a listening ear, a friend who noticed the silences Daniel had overlooked. It had started innocently. Conversations over coffee, shared complaints about long hours, but soon it became something I looked forward to, something that made me feel seen. I told myself it wasn't cheating. After all, nothing happened. But now, with Daniel's hand on mine, with his eyes pleading for closeness, guilt swelled inside me. Emotional betrayal was just as real, and though he didn't know it, I did. I pulled the blanket tighter around me, unsure of what to say. "Daniel, I need to tell you something." His expression shifted, a shadow crossing his face. "What is it?" My throat went dry. The words tangled together, heavy with fear. I've been talking to someone at work. More than I should have. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it made me realize how lonely I felt. I never crossed any physical line, but I can't pretend it was innocent anymore. The silence that followed was louder than anything I had ever heard. Daniel's hand slipped away, and for a moment, I thought I had shattered everything. His jaw tightened, his eyes darkened, and I braced myself for anger. But what he said next surprised me. "Thank you for telling me," he said quietly. It hurts, Emily. More than I can explain. But at least you didn't hide it. Tears welled in my eyes. I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I just felt invisible. His shoulders sagged, the weight of my confession pressing down on him. I made you feel that way. I was so caught up in work, in deadlines, in everything but us. And now I see where it led. I reached for his hand, trembling. I don't want to lose us either. I don't want this to be the end. He looked at me, pain and hope clashing in his eyes. Then let's fight for it. No more hiding. No more silence. If we're going to make this work, we need to start being honest, even when it hurts. That night, the television eventually clicked off, but we stayed on the sofa talking. Really talking. About the fears we had buried, the dreams we had abandoned, the cracks we had ignored. It wasn't easy. Every word felt like peeling back layers of skin, exposing wounds that had festered too long. But it was real. In the days that followed, the journey wasn't smooth. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight. There were moments of doubt, of tension, of quiet resentment. But there were also moments of healing, small gestures that reminded us why we had chosen each other in the first place. Morning coffees shared in silence, not avoidance. Evening walks without our phones. Letters written in shaky handwriting, confessing the things spoken words couldn't capture. And slowly, I began to see Daniel again, not the man buried under stress, but the man who once made me believe in forever. One evening, weeks later, we sat together on the porch, watching the sunset. Daniel reached for my hand, his grip firm but tender. You know, he said with a small smile. Sometimes I wonder if that night, the night you told me, was the night we truly began again. I squeezed his hand, tears pricking my eyes. Maybe it was. Love isn't about perfection. It isn't about never faltering or never being tempted. It's about choices, choosing each other even when it's hard, choosing honesty even when it hurts, choosing to fight for something fragile because it's worth saving. That night, when I had been just watching TV, I thought I was slipping further into the silence that had consumed us. But Daniel's touch had pulled me back, not just into his arms, but into the truth, into the painful but necessary path toward rediscovering what it meant to be us. Cheating doesn't always mean what people think it does. Sometimes, it's the absence of connection, the betrayal of unspoken needs, the quiet drift into someone else's comfort. But redemption lies in the choice to turn back, to admit the mistakes, and to reach for the person you once promised your heart to.